when I was getting started, I realized that, I am not going to go and learn to code. I had 2 little babies. I'm really well, thanks to Mal. Good to see you. I had 2 little babies. I had this idea that I wanted flexible work from home, but there was no way that I was going to go and learn HTML code, CSS, JavaScript, and become a web developer. But that was something that was most visible to me. Oh, when people learn to code, then they can work online and work from home. And for design, I didn't feel, and I still don't feel, that design was like a strength of mine, where I would like be able to, I can appreciate beautiful design when I see it, a beautiful graphic, a beautiful ebook layout, a beautiful website design. But I had this inkling, I had this kind of awareness that there's some level of, absolutely you can learn it, but there's some level of talent to the skill, right? Same with writing. So it's something where it's like, okay, I've got an eye for that, or I've got a feel for the words. And yes, you get more comfortable with those things as you get more experience working online. But that is to say, that's why I was attracted to the customer support, the administration, all those types of things. But here's what I found. As I got up and running, I realized that there's this set of services, marketing support services, online marketing implementation services, that are pretty much what I would refer to as advanced administration. So it's not where it's a talent base like writing or design, where you're using your skill and your eye for that. Those elements come into play because you draw on graphics, you draw on images, you proofreading copy that's been written by other writers or by your client or by another team member. So all those elements come into play, but what you're actually doing is you're editing, you're accessing, you're sourcing, you're researching, you're laying out images and content in all different systems on behalf of business owners, in their social media scheduling tools, images and text, in their blog posts in WordPress, text and featured images throughout the post, in their email newsletters. In a MailChimp newsletter, you might have an image or a graphic that's a banner that someone else on the team has created, or that you've had a designer create, and you're laying out all the pieces. And so I came to realize how much of a bulk of this work is not actually the specialist work, but that implementation work. And so if you refer to the slide deck now, what I shared there is, looking at all of these things that we can do online for business owners, writing, marketing, tech, admin, customer support, all these things. What are the online business services that are in high demand? And just in case it looks like I'm not looking at the screens, because I'm looking at the slides. So if you are too, that's awesome. That are in high demand, and one, they're ongoing, right? So they're ongoing activities that are performed week in, week out, or day in, day out, as is the case with social media. And so what you're able to do there is build up a base of work, right? So ongoing activities, the reason being is so that you're not, when you're very first starting out, jumping from project to project. Now, there's a really important reason for that, and it's because generally when we're starting out, we're going to be starting at a comparatively lower rate than what we're doing when we're an expert supporting that client or a specialist, right? And so if we're combining a comparatively lower rate with chunks of periods of time where we don't have work, that's a recipe for not being able to make the transition, right? Because once you're a specialist and you're charging higher rates for a website design or a piece of writing or a creation of a graphic, it doesn't matter if you have gaps between your work, because the rate that you're charging allows you to reach your income goal, to cover your living expenses and your lifestyle expenses. But if you're combining a comparatively lower rate as a generalist starting out, but then having periods of time where you're working, not working, working, not working, what's often referred to as that feast or famine roller coaster, then that's not a win, right? Because you're not going to be able to reach that income level where you can make the transition from whatever it is you're doing now, whether that's full-time work in an office, whether that's, parenting and being able to access childcare and get that income coming in so you can make a transition to starting to work again, all those types of things. So when you're able to focus on services that are needed on an ongoing basis, if you're coming to the table with skill and care and attention to detail and enthusiasm for that particular client's business, then you know that, okay, I've got that blog post every week. I've got that blog post for that client. Right now they need 2 blog posts every week. Okay, right now they understand that I really am enthusiastic about their business. They're happy for me to write posts to go straight onto social media. And so you go, okay, now I've got 1 hour of social media a week for that client, right? So you're stacking on these ongoing tasks. Yes, clients drop off. Yes, clients change their budget. But overall, what you're looking to do is get a base volume of work. And on top of that, if there's projects that come in once you're at that base, then they're the cream, right? They're not the base, because then if those projects drop off, the time you've spent corresponding with the client about it, getting comfortable with it, doing any research you need to do, it's all worthwhile, because if you get that project done, it's great. But when that project finishes, you've still got your base level of services. If you start out going project to project, what happens is all of your focus and energy gets taken up on completing that web design, or that, that piece of writing, or that one thing, and you're not doing the things that are needed to keep connecting with clients where you get that ongoing base of work. So let me know just in the chat, like, have you heard reference to this before in terms of, as a generalist starting out as a virtual assistant, where your rate might be comparatively lower, to actually focus on ongoing services and save the projects for the cream afterwards? That's a really important thing for service selection as a new person starting out. And then the second kind of requirement there is these skills that we want to focus on at the outset. They require learning new skills, right? Learning new software systems, familiarity with those systems, but not years of experience, right? So, I mean, it depends how fast you want to go. People learn code really fast, but to really be able to communicate well with a client and know your way around the back end of building a site from scratch, that takes a lot of experience. What I've found is that people coming out of the offline work world already have a lot of the skills that are needed for online marketing implementation. So things like being able to word up a decent email, right? Being able to proofread and check their grammar before they schedule something for a client's social media posts. Being able to lay out a document with bullet points and subheadings, everything that's needed for correctly and kind of proactively editing a blog post for a client, or an ebook, or a landing page, right? So you're bringing in a lot of this foundation work already from your offline career. I find that most people are, and even if you haven't been working in a corporate office, the same still applies in hospitality and retail. That need for the communication, the correspondence, checking into a database to see what someone ordered, or things like that, which come into play in the customer support and the social media responses side of things in our work as an online marketing implementer. The only thing is that you now need to apply those things into the specific software systems that we use for online marketing implementation. So inside these systems, there's people doing a couple of things. So down in the slide deck, you'll see that I refer to this set of skills as online marketing implementation. Now, differentiate that from online marketing strategy or online marketing consulting, right? So inside these systems, there's someone who's figuring out what needs to be done in the first place. Just say your client is running a product launch. Okay, how many emails do we need? What do the emails need to say? When are they going to be sent? All of these things are the role of either a business owner themselves or a marketing strategist or consultant. You, as the implementer, are coming to the table with familiarity with the systems and digging in to find out about that business owner's content. What do they say? What are their videos or whatever? Knowing where to access all the little bits and pieces, their photos, their videos, their text, their logo files, all those things, their customer support inbox messages, knowing where to access those things and implementing the plan that someone else has come up with, either the client themselves or an experienced member of their team or a contracted marketing strategist or specialist. Right? So this is the second key distinction, is really understanding, okay, as a new person starting out, I don't need to come in pretending that I know how to grow someone's business or increase their social media followers or grow their list or take responsibility for the incoming revenue. What I'm coming to the table with is the ability to free up their time, to take all the day-to-day work off their hands. There's such a huge volume of that needed in systems, to free up their time to concentrate more on the strategy, on the planning, on the figuring out what to do in the first place. Paper, and Namal's just said in the chat there, pay-per-click or SEO, etc. Do you do that? If you do, that's fantastic, right? No. Okay, so that's absolutely another service you can be helping people with. Absolutely. Facebook advertising, Pinterest advertising, every social media platform, webinar management, audio editing, podcasts, show notes. There's a range of other online marketing skills. But what we're talking about here specifically, and we'll go through the framework in just a second, is the selection that I've kind of pulled out of that are ongoing and don't require a stack of experience. So pay-per-click, because you're investing the client's money, right? So they're not just investing their money into you as the service provider for your time, but also into ad spend. My observations have been that you need some experience first with all the other back-end concepts of online marketing to be able to confidently offer that to a client and know that they're going to get value for money. Cool. Thanks for getting back to me. Same with SEO. You need time understanding, the different aspects of content. Inside the online biz skills course that I teach the very tip of the iceberg basics of SEO, in terms of just where it's required as an implementer to edit the metadata and the title of a blog post as it will appear in search results, specifically in Google search results, so that you as the implementer are doing your part for the SEO, but not in terms of strategy, just in terms of refining the administrative details that relate to the week in, week out task of editing the client's blog posts. So those things, absolutely, if you feel drawn to them. So for me personally, I've gone more and more into Facebook advertising, and I got more and more confident to offer that to clients when I knew that everything that was sitting behind the Facebook ad, the blog post content, the way that someone could sign up from the blog post to the client's email newsletter, all of those components that I had a couple years of experience of implementing, I knew that I could set up everything behind the scenes to make the Facebook ad effective. Therefore, I was comfortable to tell the client, let's invest this much in Facebook ads. Webinars is another thing where you don't need a stack of experience, but I've found that it's another one of those project things where you maybe want to put on top afterwards. And also because it's live, building up some of that confidence at the outset to know exactly what to click, what to press, because everything else, blog posts, social media, email marketing, newsletters, you can go and check in with someone and have it reviewed before the scheduled date, right? So getting on a webinar with a client and helping them either moderate or set it up or troubleshoot, what have you, I've found again that that's not something I'd want to start with straight out of the gate, but it absolutely doesn't take a whole stack of experience. Like webinar management would probably be one of the very next things I would add on to my service set as a beginner, beyond the things that we're about to cover now. So inside the online biz skills framework, as I call it, and as we just chatted about, it's not the be all and end all of online marketing implementation, but it's those things that I would start with personally if I was to start again from scratch. Blog management, specifically in WordPress, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Email marketing support, and ideally if you can get skilled up in 2 or 3 systems to begin with as a generalist, as an all-rounder, so that you can be reaching out to support people on their teams, in particular other established service providers and not just business owners directly. Social media management, and here not focusing, as I said, on strategy and which platforms are we going to be on and how frequently are we going to post and what mix of content types we're going to do, but really going in and going, okay, someone else has got the plan, frequency, types of content, which platforms, and they've told me what that is, and then I'm following that to source the content, to pull it out from the client's archives, to preview, add the snippets and proofread those. And I'm doing that day in, day out, but I'm not having to make decisions about, oh, should we be on Pinterest or shouldn't we? Someone who's got experience with social media is making that plan based on that client's budget, business model, and the type of industry they're in. Landing page creation, specifically with tools, and those tools allow us to not have to touch the code or code something up from scratch like we would if we were becoming a web developer or a coder. And then online customer support. Now, I get really, really excited about online customer support, people starting out. People always skip it, which is why I tend to emphasize it even more. Now, I got my start with online customer support and blog management, and that was a full 40 to 50 hour week for me, right, in the first year. So the thing with that is what you're looking at doing is reaching out to established business owners that have large volumes of customer support, right? And so for me personally, I find that really fulfilling and exciting when you're doing it in a proactive way. So it's not customer support where you're like, oh, here's that link you need, or yes, your logins, passwords fixed up now. I mean, like really helping a client to connect with their audience, the people that are either interested in their products and services, or they're already customers or members, and you're able to actually get them what they need. You're able to look them up in your client's database, see what they've got access to, what they don't have access to, send them links, all those types of things. And this comes in through not just email, but also social media inboxes as well, messaging inboxes. So let's look at each of those in detail now. So blog management first up. Who's already familiar with WordPress? Let me know in the chat. WordPress is not the only, and I'm here on page 7 of the slides if anyone's missed where we're up to. So WordPress is not the only content management system to build a website in and manage blog content, but it's far and away still absolutely the most popular, in particular for business owners that are at the revenue level that justifies contracting ongoing team members, right? Now, yes, absolutely. There's clients working in Squarespace, in Wix, there's other tools out there. WordPress is the biggest by far. The most important key there is for businesses at the revenue level that can stably, comfortably, willing and able to pay you to help manage their blog content. And so with WordPress, the first thing is kind of going, okay, step 1 is to realize that when I get familiar with WordPress, I'm not getting skilled up in the totality of WordPress. I'm not learning how to change themes and widgets and change a client's menu on their site and, reorder the way pages are structured. What I'm doing is I'm specifically learning one aspect of the functionality of WordPress, which is the blog section, right? So I teach this in-depth tutorial screencast training inside the course, the Online Biz Skills. So you can check that out, valifestyledesign.com/skills-course. But overall, initially what you're thinking to yourself is, okay, so I'm just going to zero in initially on not needing to say that I can help a client with their total site, but manage their blog. And I can tell you that there's absolutely a huge volume of work for people to focus on just that alone. And you know why that is? Web developers, web designers, they're not going in and managing a client's blog post content week in, week out. What do web designers and web developers do? They often will give their clients what's called a website care package, where they'll design the site, they'll deliver it to the client. They might give the client a little bit of onboarding, handover information, like in terms of showing them how to access the blog and use the blog themselves. And then they might take over some maintenance month by month. So they might update plugins on the site. Plugins are they add extra functionality to a WordPress website. So the web developer might be updating them to make sure the site stays secure, and checking different things on the site from an SEO standpoint, etc. But they're not going in there and getting, content off the client every week, proofreading blog posts, adding hyperlinks in. These are the things that we're doing as a virtual assistant, as an online marketing freelancer. So we're formatting the blog posts accurately. Things like I shared before that we're often coming in with a lot of experience in is like, okay, where's a subheading got to go? Where do I need to put bullets? Where should I hyperlink things to? So formatting those blog posts accurately, proofreading and checking them wherever that content has come from, sourcing the images, right? So this is a lot of time. For businesses that are well established and are generating revenue from the content and the information that they're putting out there, it's absolutely worth it to them to have high quality images. That's not just the first stock image that someone pulled off, a Google search, but where people actually go in and go, what's this post about? All right, should I look for a stock image for this post off a stock gallery site? The one that I'm in love with is called stocksy.com. There's another free site which has fantastic images called Kaboom Pics. That's with a K, K-A-B-O-O-M, Pics. But there's a whole stack of other stock image sites out there. And as a generalist, when you're getting started, quite often it's the case that your client will already have a stock image gallery, and they're sharing their login details with you, and you're either going in searching in that gallery for images, or you might be searching in their own original photos if the client is, say, a coach and they've got personal brand shots, or like by that I mean shots of themselves in different kind of contexts depending on what is their topic area, right? So if they're a health coach, they might have shots with them in the kitchen or what have you. If they're a business coach, it might look a little bit more corporate, all those types of things. Then for e-commerce business owners, so you might be going and looking at, and this is a blog post about that, and it references that product we've got. So I'm going to go to the client's original image gallery and grab that better image, right? So there's time involved in sourcing the right images to get a piece of content, whether it's a blog post, a social media post, an email newsletter, or a landing page, up to the standard it needs to be to connect with the client's audience and to have them interested in staying engaged and down the track potentially becoming a customer, a client, or a member. So optimizing them is setting them up so that they're relevant for basic SEO here, Namal. So looking at a blog post and going, okay, what we need to do is actually add a title, add some text to the background of this image when we upload it into WordPress, so that the Google bots know what this image is about, and it makes a small contribution overall to SEO, to the way that people are able to find that particular piece of content in search, in Google search. So us as an implementer, we're not worrying about, are the things that we're doing to images actually making an impact on where our client's website is ranked in Google search. What we're concerned about is that we've done our little administrative part to check the box to make sure we're stacking the odds in our client's favor. And if they're going to get a specialist SEO strategist to come in and work on other aspects of SEO, great. But we're doing those little things that are needed. Every image needs something that's called alt text, alternative text, that allows the Google bots to see what that image is all about. Again, I teach this exactly how to do it by, screencast tutorial inside the Online Biz Skills. So other aspects of optimizing the image is cropping it to the right aspect ratio. So does your client have like long, skinny images on their blog posts so that it encourages people to pin them onto Pinterest? Or do they have like landscape style aspect ratio images because that looks better on their website design and they're relevant for, pulling those previews into Facebook, for example? Every client is different because every client has their focus and their audience coming in from different platforms. That's partly related to their industry and topic area, and it's partly related to the client's affinity with different marketing strategies, right? So we're optimizing those images, reducing the file size, right? So there's particular tools. One of them is tinypng.com. But I teach with others inside the Online Biz Skills how to get that file size reduced as much as possible. Why is that? It's because over time, we're adding lots and lots of images to a client's website. And so we want to make sure that by minimizing the file size of images, that we're not slowing down the speed of their site. And slow sites get penalized by Google, and they get penalized by Facebook advertising, which is a huge specialist marketing strategy at the moment. So we always, as an implementer, as a generalist starting out as a newbie, we want to go, okay, I've heard that uploading big images slows a client's site down, so I'm going to take the extra time to reduce the file size. Now, the right business owners, established business owners, they know that all of this stuff takes time, but they also know that it's keeping all of their other strategies in play. This is where our value comes in, even before we're a specialist or we've got experience. Okay, so the next thing, and I probably shouldn't go into as much detail because I'll be here all day, but if you've got questions as we go through, let me know. But so with the blog post still, adding relevant links to the text. So here we're being really proactive and going, okay, I might not have hyperlinks in the draft text that's been sent to me from the client or from another team member, but I'm going to be proactive here. If a client's product is mentioned in the blog post, I'm going to hyperlink it to the sales page for that product. If another article is mentioned, I might hyperlink it to that article that was in my client's blog post archives. Or if a reference to another person is made, like an interviewee guest or a podcast interviewee, I'm going to link that person's website on their name in my client's blog post. And depending on the relationship I've got with the client, if there's anything I'm unsure about, when I send that formatted final piece of work back to my client or back to their team lead, if there's any links I'm not sure about, I'm just going to take a screenshot. I'm going to say, hey, I added a hyperlink here. If there's any changes that are needed there, just let me know. So you're being proactive up front, and then you're asking for confirmation when you hand pieces of work back to team leads or to the client themselves. Now, I already chatted about this one, adding a title and meta description for Google. So that's the basics of your SEO inside the back end of WordPress. And inside the Online Biz Skills, I teach how to do that with a specific plugin called Yoast SEO. And keyword research. So again, what we're doing here is sometimes the clients will not care at all about SEO because a lot of their traffic is coming from either partnerships or paid social media advertising. And other times clients will have a huge focus on SEO. And so in those cases where they do have a huge focus on traffic coming in from organic Google searches, then we're able to put more focus and effort into researching with particular tools, keyword phrases that we can add into the blog content to make sure it's showing up for those specific phrases. So we're using tools to research the way people word things when they're typing them into Google, and then making small tweaks and refinements to our clients' blog post text to include include that phrase specifically rather than a different kind of slight variation of it. Okay, now content research, that's where it's different to keyword research. So keyword research relates to one specific blog post, whereas content research is about overall helping the client to figure out what should they write about next. What is it that people need to know in their topic area, in their niche? What do they want to educate people about? So the content research might be in the client's own business. You might be going through the customer support inbox of all the questions that other team members have answered previously, seeing what people are asking. What is it that keeps coming up time and time again? Okay, great. I've done some research there in terms of what are all these questions that are coming into my client's business. I'm going to brainstorm out 5 blog post headlines and recommend those to my client. Now, sometimes you'll be asked to do this out of the box. Okay, what it's referred to often is planning a blog post editorial calendar. And sometimes you'll be proactively doing that in the process of doing other things. You'll be editing a blog post and you'll come up with an idea because yesterday you were answering customer support emails and all these questions keep coming in for the client. Then the next day you're editing a blog post for them and it tweaks an idea that, oh, there's this other element of this question that my client's customers keep asking. So when I hand this blog post back to the client, I'm just going to make the recommendation, oh, I noticed that people are also interested in this. And you're suggesting a blog post title, right? So unit 7 of my course, the Online Biz Skills, is called Becoming Irreplaceable. And I go through a whole stack of specific collaboration and client workflow processes that are putting you forward as the proactive, irreplaceable person, the person that's like cares about that client's business as much as they do themselves. And so that, what I mentioned there, is just a tiny little example of that. All of these things that I've kind of picked up over the years. I've been working online for 6 years now. It's coming up to 7 at the beginning of next year. But all of these little things where when I notice that clients go, oh, wow, you know, I can't believe you suggested that or you did that. And at first, and I find that established service providers often think this, that they think, isn't everyone doing that? And isn't everyone like giving the client ideas, making suggestions, proactively doing things? And I'm like, no, they're not. That's why there's still room, right? So all of these little things are so important. They're really what sets you apart. So let's finish up on the blog post there. So headline brainstorming is actually going out and looking at other blog posts, looking at successful blogs in your client's niche, looking at your past archives of your client's own blog, and brainstorming out the way to word the headline of a post that's going to encourage people to actually read that content and know what it's all about in the first place. And when that is pulled through to social media, it makes sense in social media as well, and people want to click on that to find out more. And so that has a whole lesson in and of itself inside the online biz skills, because it's so important to the value you add to a client's business, in particular because it takes a lot of time, and more time than clients realize. And as you start to work with more and more established businesses, you'll see that oftentimes almost as much time goes into headlines and image research as the rest of writing the blog post and formatting it all together, because they're so important to connecting with that client's audience and new potential people that are interested in their business. So updating the blog editorial calendar. So before I was talking about content research, where you're helping the client to figure out what should they write about in the first place. Oh, we should do some interview posts with these people, or we should do a how-to post, or we should do a story about, different parts of your experience, right? To the client, I mean here. But then updating the blog editorial calendar is a bit different. It could be a proactive way where you're actually planning it out in the first place, or it could be more in an administrative way where as you're editing and scheduling all these blog posts in, you're updating the editorial calendar in the process. So the strategist or the marketing person, or the experienced team member, or the client themselves know where everything's up to. And then writing or outlining blog posts. And I put that one last because I still don't write blog posts for clients. And I did for a little while in the middle, right? Because I got asked to do it and I got a bit more comfortable with it. Didn't do it at the beginning. Don't do it now. Why is that? It's because you can work with experienced writers. Like, so here we're talking about us becoming online marketing implementers. There's people that are just as excited about going all in on writing, and that's a strength and a talent that they have, which I think is amazing. And there's so much opportunity, even if your client hasn't contracted a writer themselves, to collaborate with someone yourself, to contract someone from a Facebook group, from the online biz skills group, from other Facebook groups, right? And on freelancing platforms as well. So that's why I put writing last, because it's an optional one for you. And I wouldn't necessarily put it up front. The reason is, I'll share with you the reason. If it's a talent and a strength and a personal passion of yours, yes, absolutely. If it's not, what I've seen happening is that when people say yes to writing straight up, it takes a lot of emotional energy out of them if it's not a personal strength of theirs, to get a blog post written, and they can't do it at the same speed that that's someone's passion and their interest. For me, I can happily go through proofreading, editing, putting in subheadings, finding images, cropping images. I can do that till the cows come home, right? But if you ask me to write in a client or a brand's voice, that takes a lot of effort for me. Yeah, I know it's funny. It's something that I have a real appreciation for, that when people are fantastic at it, and a lot of people are fantastic at it. But I wanted to come out going, okay, I know I can just say yes to that work and I can get it done. Here's what I've seen happening with people where writing's not their strength, but they're saying yes to it because they feel like they have to. You don't have to. There's so many people to collaborate with. So what happens is they put all this energy into the blog post. Oh, I've got to get that blog post written for the client by Tuesday. Oh, I don't know. Should I say this or should I say that? I don't know if I've worded it right. It's all this emotional energy goes into it. That's the nature of writing. Even the best, highest level paid writers say that that's part of the process of writing. There's that self-doubt and that wondering and all of that type of thing. And then guess what happens? You're not getting a full week's billable hours in, and you're not able to make the transition. And you go, maybe this online freelancing thing is too hard, and go back. I've seen that at least a handful of times, guys. That's why I'm saying it up front. That's admittedly over the last 6 to 7 years. But that's why. Now, don't let me discourage you if writing is your passion. That the advice that I just shared there does not apply, but that's why it's last there. And I found that was really critical to me to get up and running fast with confidence. And my own ability to express myself in writing developed as I got more comfortable online. And I'm very comfortable writing my own stuff, just not in someone else's voice, which is the talent of specialist writers. I can absolutely write how-to posts for clients though. So I do that sometimes, but not so much at the moment because I'm focusing more and more on email marketing support and automation, as well as Facebook advertising as well. Okay, so email marketing support is the next one. So learning to navigate around inside 2 or 3 different systems. You may, as you develop your skills, decide to go all in on one particular system. Does that mean you can command a higher rate? It sure does, right? So if you hang your hat and you go, I'm a specialist in blah and I know it like back to front, does that mean you have the capacity to charge a higher rate than a generalist virtual assistant starting out? It sure does. So I wouldn't discourage you from that either. So why do I say 2 to 3 systems? It's because starting out where you want to be able to back someone up as a team member, they're generally, in particular service providers, they've got a few systems that their clients are working in, right? So a team, either a digital marketing agency, a web design agency, a multi-VA team, a consultant that's the solo consultant getting one right-hand VA to do implementation for them. I'll share an example of that for you in just a minute. They've got clients working in different systems. And so if they know, okay, I've got this awesome person running alongside me, they're proactive, they come up with ideas, they've got attention to detail, right, can you help me with this client, this client, and this client? If you can say yes, guess what? You've just got a larger bulk of work out of one client relationship, and you're minimizing your unbillable time. Now, I want to give you an example of what I just shared there about as a generalist coming in to run alongside someone, and in particular, if they've got different clients in different email systems. So I had someone reach out to me last year, have clients that contact me through the Greason Media website contact form. But this one in particular stood out for me last year because she worded it in such a succinct and clear way that kind of captures this difference between the strategist and the implementer. And so what she said was, I recently found out about you through a Facebook ad. She was talking to me here, and I'm looking for a VA. So she was reaching out because a lot of times people don't know whether I hire out VAs or whether I'm available personally or whether I contract someone on my team straight out or whether they go through me. Like, people don't always know what the exact structure is up front. So she said, and I don't hire VAs out, by the way, I do training and I have my own clients as well. So, but some people do that. They'll generate leads and then they'll actually hand off the client to a VA directly. So she said, I recently found out about you through a Facebook ad and I'm looking for a VA. I'm a social media manager and consultant who needs an extra pair of social savvy hands for admin help. I thought that was such a good description because it's, she's a service provider herself, so she understands this difference. I need an extra pair of social savvy hands for admin help, copying and pasting, scheduling, setting up Pinterest boards, helping with WordPress tweaks, blog research, etc. Here's the key part. I don't need help with strategy or ideas or writing. I just need more time to work on that myself. That's exactly, and she said, I'm located in the UK, but don't mind the idea of somebody being a few hours behind me time zone wise. So I like that because it just captures it really well when a service provider understands this differentiator. Sometimes clients don't know it up front. And so what you'll hear out there in Facebook land and, on the freelancer boards is VAs complaining that, oh, my client wants me to plan their whole launch and they're only paying me X, right? So what you need to realize is just like there's new service providers like us or like you guys here, because I think everyone said they're new starting out here. There's also new entrepreneurs. And when they're contracting a VA for the first time, they don't realize that, oh, okay, the VA who's skilled up in being the social savvy hands and setting up the boards and editing the emails and all this type of thing, they're not the same person who's got years, like the time in the game to be able to just confidently manage a full launch. So they'll ask you anyway. Here's the really important thing that I want you to know. You can say no. You can say, I don't actually, I haven't run a launch for a client before, what have you. There's absolutely value in being the implementer and being the get it done person, just like that that person was describing in that email where they reached out to me. People either need their time freed up or they want someone to help them with their results and improving their business, right? There's value in both of them separately. As a newbie, as a generalist starting out, we're helping people free up their time so that they can focus on their growth and their results more instead of all this implementation and the content. If you find fulfillment in that, in all the different pieces of content, then there's just incredible demand for that service to support business owners, especially as business is evolving online now. So MailChimp, Infusionsoft, and ConvertKit, 3 of the hugely popular ones that I teach inside the online biz skills and that I work in. There's definitely other ones out there. I also work in another system called Drip. But MailChimp, Infusionsoft, and ConvertKit are still like the big boys. It's where like a huge chunk of the business is. And a big part of my kind of filtering process for what I was going to include in the online biz skills course is what's going to give people the best chance of opportunities coming up where they can say yes to the most amount of things. I need someone with MailChimp and Buffer, which we'll talk about in a minute, and WordPress. Yes, so these combinations allow you to say yes to the most things, but they're not everything that's out there, right? I'm sure you probably already got a glimpse of that from your online research already. But what I found is really powerful is if you learn these email software systems in 2 or 3 systems, you're able to actually then transfer those concepts much more easily into another system. So, okay. So Namal said, I know Infusionsoft is a big yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's huge. MailChimp as well, ConvertKit, and other systems out there. Active Campaign would be another one. I mean, I'm not going to, there's a lot. I won't name them all, but MailChimp, Infusionsoft, ConvertKit, in particular for these small to medium-sized business owners that we connect with online as virtual assistants. There's then enterprise-level software like HubSpot and Marketo, which are much higher monthly subscription points that our clients pay. And more relevant for corporations doing email marketing, etc. But we're connecting with small to medium businesses and entrepreneurs and local businesses as well. Formatting and scheduling the newsletters, right? Proofreading text, checking the links, just like we were in the blog post. Same skill applied over into a different system. Automated emails, so setting up those emails that are either a single email that might go back when someone purchases your client's product, or signs up for their ebook or video course, anything like that, or email sequences, like a full sequence of emails, either for customers that are getting used to your client's business and they're being onboarded into your client's business, or for new audience members where your client's starting to build a relationship with those. So what you're doing here is, again, not strategizing out what those emails should be, but laying them out, putting the images in, putting the links in, putting the social media icons in, sending yourself tests, checking the links, and sending that information back either to the client or their team lead. And then email marketing reports. So going into these systems, MailChimp, Infusionsoft, ConvertKit, and learning how to access the data to say, hey, this email in this sequence got the most opens, right? It got a 35% open rate. Let's look at why that is, and can we transfer some more of that into our other emails in our client's business. Now, what you're doing is not so much the brainstorming out what to do about that information, but actually accessing that information and making it easy for the client to put it in front of their face. So whether that's on a weekly team meeting, if they're a virtual team that has a full meeting, or whether that's through a project management space where you send a quick message once a month or once a week, you're getting those important numbers in front of them. And again, I teach this exactly inside those systems, inside the online biz skills. Everything I teach is purely from an implementation, get it done, support person, team member perspective. There's a couple, and I'll just share this briefly before we move on to the next section. There's a few different angles that you can take it. So after you've got your skill base as a generalist and you're up and running working online, you've got your flexibility, you've been able to let go of any other income sources. I feel like that's step one, right? Getting your solid base of work up and running before starting to move into, I don't know, everyone has a different order, but that's absolutely how I would do it before becoming a specialist, or before wanting to position yourself as a marketer, or before wanting to position yourself as an online business manager. So it's not so much a marketer, but where you're managing the whole operations for a client's online business, or before you start building a team, right? None of those things are mandatory. And from my perspective, when I started out I'd been a full-time stay-at-home mum for 2 years, hadn't been working, I did work at the end when we were trying to get to Costa Rica, but that's another story. But for the most part, not working over that period of 2 years, I wasn't in an entrepreneurial state of mind. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, like, this is going to be my thing, and I'm going to dig into this system, whatever. I didn't even know the system names. I was just like, I want to help someone be paid an hourly rate and not wake up to an alarm clock or leave my house to do it, and be able to do it, still being around my family, right? The entrepreneurial side of things and the, oh my gosh, like people are doing it at this rate and that rate and these packages, that came in naturally after I'd already got my I'd been up and running for 2 years as a supporter and team member and implementer. If you're really excited about one particular system 3 months in and you decide you want to specialize early, go for it. What I'm saying here is that it's not a requirement to get the big factor of getting your lifestyle set up the way you want it. And there's differentiators there, right? So if you're the primary income earner in a family of 5, yeah, you might need to start out specializing and going all in on something so you can charge the higher rates at the beginning. But if you're either the secondary income earner or you're making a slower transition with your day job, or you're the stay-at-home parent at the moment and you're the secondary income that you can slowly build this up, whatever reason, whatever way you can do it, where you can have a full-time work week, but not need to be able to, not need to go and specialize straight away, then you can naturally do that just like I did. So you naturally progress into getting more and more experience, going all in on, particular things that you're excited about. Even though I love particular systems, my preference has been to stay quite a bit of a generalist in terms of the tools that I use, because I find fulfillment in a lot of them. There's been ones that I've dropped off over the years. So Aweber is one of those that I just didn't enjoy working in, so I dropped it off. And I don't take, there's archived lessons in the Online Biz Skills and Aweber, but I didn't update them. All the ones in the Infusionsoft, Mailchimp, and VertKit are updated and current because they're the ones that I work in. So social media management, navigating inside the tools, and not just like Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram, but actually the scheduling tools. So is anyone familiar with the tools Buffer and Sprout Social? Let me know in the chat. Buffer and Sprout Social are two fantastic tools, super user-friendly, that allow you to schedule your clients' social media content in advance to post out to multiple platforms. So it brings in time efficiency for business owners where they can manage the full social media structure in one tool, right? And with Sprout Social, not only do you schedule the content there, but you can also manage the incoming messages and comments that are coming back in on your clients' content in a single inbox. So, sometimes what you're doing for a client is logging in to Facebook to check their Facebook message and responding there, or logging into Twitter to check their Twitter mentions and reply there. But in tools like Sprout Social, you can actually do that right in Sprout Social, and then it feeds it out to the platform. So for businesses where there's a large volume, you're actually bringing in efficiency. And this is how social media is managed for larger clients. Sometimes if you're working with a solo entrepreneur, someone who's got like an Etsy store, or they're a coach just starting out or something like that, then it may be that you're not using a social media scheduling tool and they actually do have you logging into each of the social platforms. I cover both angles, using the tool or natively logging into platforms inside the Online Biz Skills. Dominique said, no, not familiar, have heard of similar programs though. Okay, so maybe Hootsuite, Dominique. Hootsuite, interestingly, is just one of those other systems that I used to work in day in, day out for a few years and dropped off once I discovered Buffer and Sprout Social. I much prefer the user experience in those. And Buffer in particular really started picking up popularity at that time, so I dropped off Hootsuite. But there's absolutely members of the Online Biz Skills now working in Hootsuite for clients. It's just my personal preference. But Buffer and Sprout Social are huge as well. Okay, awesome. So research and content curation. So a huge part of this social media scheduling is going and finding out what's going to be posted in the first place. And that's partly from the archives of your clients' content, what's been in the blog post the last few weeks, what's in a book that they wrote, where you're going to pull out snippets or quotes from that and either post them directly with an image or turn them into a quote graphic with a tool like Canva. Definitely look that one up. A free tool that allows you to create amazing, beautiful graphics without any design experience. I was a savior for me when it came along, because it meant that I could stop delegating out graphics to designers, which is what I always did for the first couple of years working online. I can't remember exactly when Canva came out, but I'm pretty sure it was when I started Greason Media. Don't quote me on the date, but could have been around 2013 or so. I'm not sure. Maybe something like that. Well, that's when I definitely got on my radar. But before that, what I would do is I would go, okay, we need a graphic for social media. What is the quote or the text or the headline going to say? what image should be in the background, what colors does it need to be. I would brainstorm all that out, and then I would send it off as an email to my client's designer, and then it would come back, and then I would give any feedback and get revisions, and then it would come back. And still, that's absolutely how we do it in some cases now, in a lot of cases actually, for custom design, but not so much for social media graphics, more so for like book design and ebook design and things that have to be fully custom. Where it's social media graphics, most of the time now, that's all virtual assistants or implementers using tools like Canva, and there's other ones out there too, but Canva is a huge one with awesome quality design templates. So you're doing that to access the content and curate it, content also off your client's site, so content that's in their industry, in their same topic area, videos, images, podcasts, things that are relevant to share with your client's audience that are going to connect with them. So once you've found that content, you're writing and scheduling those posts. So you're writing up the snippet, or you're pulling out a quote from the body of a blog post that you're going to share, or you're adding additional commentary. Sometimes it'll be that you're doing the research, and we do this for I've done this a lot. We find first the content that's most relevant, and then the client will actually write up the snippets, right? We proofread and schedule them in the tool. It sounds like a lot of work, but that's absolutely what is justified for businesses that have large audiences they're connecting with and are making thousands and thousands of dollars a month. It's absolutely worth it. In particular, this is relevant where the client's got a personal brand. So things need to be directly in their own voice rather than a brand voice. And so they'll write up that snippet, but to do it quickly and without proofreading, and not to have had to have found the snippets of content they're going to be shared in the first place. They know what they're commenting on. They write the comment, we proofread, and we schedule it. We make sure that it's looking right for each platform that it's going out to. It's got the right type of image for Twitter. It's got the right type of image for Facebook. It's posted separately on Pinterest and Instagram, for example. Do you guys think, share with me, is this surprising to you how much work goes into all of this stuff? Like, I know, because a lot of times coming into this now, like, people have a lot of personal experience with social media, but it's so different when you're doing it personally. And you're just like, oh, I want to share this photo, I want to say this or whatever. And when you're doing it for a business, there's so much more layers of preparation and detail and review and planning that go into it. Were you already aware of this? Or is it kind of like, whoa, is this really what goes on? Namal said, I was trying to build a business, so starting as a freelancer seems a much better starting point. Yes, big time. Namal, I'm not sure if you've seen my story. If you go to VA Lifestyle Design /biz skills, there's a free series there, and you can watch it later. Don't necessarily watch it now. But the very first video there is me sharing my story of how I likewise tried to get started with an ebook, and I was working with a web developer, and I paid someone to help me with writing, and I was a mom, and then I just had my second baby, and I was like, I just want to help the people that already figured this stuff out. Like, I just want an hourly rate. Thank you very much. And my enthusiasm for the entrepreneurial side of things just gradually came on naturally. A, as my kids got older and I had sleep again and all this type of stuff. I'm sure any parents here can relate to that. And B, just as I, stepped behind the curtain, so to speak, and saw all the potential and saw how much it fulfilled me, and saw our income growing as I got more excited about it and leveled up the clients I was working with. But that's such a smart move, and not only that, but if you decide that you want to come back and start a particular business that you were working on, you do it in such a more streamlined way. I started blogging on VA Lifestyle Design in 2014, but like more seriously in 2015. But had started working online in 2011, started Greason Media in 2013. And I can't even begin to think, when I've looked at it through a client's eyes and they're relying on me as a service provider who's familiar with all these tools and systems to do every little single thing. And that's great. That's where our work comes from. And that's perfect. It's justified because they are good at what they do to make money. But I thought, from my perspective, how much money am I saving? I'm saving myself a few grand a month, at least, in all of these things that I can do like the back of my hand, just to set up pages for VA Lifestyle Design, get a blog post up super efficient, or what have you. Yeah, I have people helping me now because it makes sense. But just when that was like experimentation and I started out and it was just like a side hobby type thing, it was an eye-opener, like how good it was, how effective it was to do it that way around, learning the skills, supporting other people and their business owners, getting a look behind the curtain in the back end of all these people's systems and in the online world of, you know, freelancers and entrepreneurs collaborating, and then looking at setting up something else aside from services. You don't need to do it, right? So you don't have to get entrepreneurially ambitious and want to do that. If you were going to be, you know, if you your partner and yourself or whatever, there's going to be two income earners, absolutely stay as a supporter, right? I decided to take it more and more entrepreneurial because as we had our third child, and my husband also had a car rental business in Costa Rica, but then we realized, hang on a second, you know, my work is going to allow us to be completely flexible and location independent, and I love it so much. So why don't I ramp it up, and then we just have one of us working for a family of 5? So that's why, you know, I decided that was the way to go for me. Okay, and then Namal said, plus I'm also working on buying existing businesses, so understanding what competencies to hire a VA is good to know. Excellent, that's fantastic. Yes, and a real key thing there, Namal, is understanding that you're hiring some people for strategy and some people for implementation. There'll be certain instances where you're hiring teams that will do both, but that's a big part that new people that are new to hiring VAs often miss that part. Okay, so monitoring and responding to those social media messages. I'm back on the slides now, guys. What page am I on? 15. Writing and scheduling social media posts. And if anyone has come in midway through, there's a green button below me to click to open the slides, and I'm on page 15. Writing and scheduling social media posts, monitoring and responding to messages. So this is huge, especially for established businesses. Why is it so important? Because a lot of those messages are about the audience member wanting to connect with that client. Then there's importance in warm, effective, helpful communication going back to those people, because they're your client's potential customers or advocates or referrers or people that are going to tag your client's business in social media. And social media reports, again, looking at those numbers, looking at the growth, looking at what posts get the most engagement, and being able to communicate that back to your client, but also use it to inform your next month's session of scheduling content for that client. Now, the next one, number 4 on page 16 of the slides, is landing page creation. So even though we're not looking at becoming a web designer or a coder or building full sites for clients from the outset, what we do want to be able to do is work with them to be able to get these pages set up whenever they have a new free or paid offer. So a free offer could be something like an ebook or a video series or a demo or initial call or a webinar, right? A paid offer is something like is a product, right? But a paid offer could be like a low dollar entry product or their flagship product. It could be a digital product, physical product. So all these offers that your client comes up with in terms of when they're strategizing out, what should I create next? What should I offer next? What needs to be refined? What needs to be combined? All those types of things. There's always these updates needed for these landing pages. So I share there, online business owners appreciate being able to quickly implement their new ideas for bringing in new leads and customers. So when I first started, just as I was sharing, and it sounds like it was years ago, but in internet speak it was, because in 2011, what I used to do was send everything off to the web designer. So just like I would with design, everything would go to a graphic designer. Web design would go to the developer or the web designer. It would be me brainstorming out what the page needs to look like, sharing screenshots or what have you. Then lead pages and ClickFunnels came to the table, right? So lead pages and ClickFunnels are the two big players of landing page creation tools that allow us as non-coders, non-designers to create pages for these specific offers that have buttons that either help someone sign up to an email list or buttons to make a purchase, and fields where someone can enter their name and email address, and then text and images that describe what your client's offering. So the system that I'm a fan of and work in and teach inside the Online Biz Skills is called Lead Pages. ClickFunnels is the other one. I don't teach ClickFunnels inside the Online Biz Skills, but there's absolutely huge demand for it as well. They're kind of like the two big players. I like the design and the look and feel that I can get out of the Lead Pages templates. And what you're doing there is, again, getting familiar with being comfortable navigating inside that tool. So when you log in, do you know what you're looking at? Okay, first I need to do this, then I need to do that, then I need to get the images and copy and put them into the template, then I need to integrate it to the client's email system. So get familiar with all those, where all those buttons are. That's precisely what I teach inside the course, like where to click to do each little bit, and how to communicate that back to the client at different stages of that collaboration. And then customizing that page once you've found a template in one of those tools with the headline, the client's logo, text, images, colors, right? So here, again, what we're doing is going, okay, I'm customizing the page, but someone else figured out what should be on the page in the first place. I'm doing the implementing work. You've probably heard me repeat that enough times now that it's locked in. Choosing the right settings to integrate the business owner's email marketing tool and their e-commerce system. So by email marketing tool, it's one of those tools we mentioned just initially, MailChimp, ConvertKit, Infusionsoft, or whatever your client is using. And the e-commerce system is where they're collecting payment so that a customer can actually pay them for their product or their service or their event. So something like Samcart or Gumroad, or Stripe directly. Stripe is a big payment processor like PayPal. So you're integrating that. Now Lead Pages just newly has come out with an e-commerce option. It's not something that I'm using personally yet, not to get off track, but it's just because of the look and feel of those pages for the time being. But what you're doing there is you're going, okay, I've created this page and now I'm going to link it up to whatever it needs to be linked to either allow someone to subscribe or download what's on the page or to pay my client. And then finally, online customer support. Now, again, you'll hear me get more excited about this one, even so, especially, well, in particular, it's for people starting out, right? Because I know there's such a huge volume of work, and consultants and strategists don't want to touch it. So it's like, it's out for the taking for new people getting started, right? I still am fulfilled by doing customer support. I do most of my own customer support because I like being able to connect with people, and I've seen when clients like fully step back from customer support, how they're not so connected with what people are asking, what they're interested about, what they're confused by, etc. And so the way that you can do a really proactive, efficient job of customer support is for you to be doing the bulk of the emails, but then periodically collating the themes and sharing an update with the client. Hey, I noticed we got a lot of people asking about this, or I noticed people are having a lot of trouble or confusion with that. And you actually communicating that information back to the client without the client needing to answer every one of those emails themselves, but they're still able to keep their finger on the pulse, right? So that's a really, really effective way to do customer support as a service provider. So you're navigating around in systems like Help Scout, Zendesk. So they are two biggies of specific systems. So sometimes with very small micropreneurs, you might be managing it directly in the inbox, but wherever there's a team, which is quite often the case in those established business owners, the ones that are willing and able to pay you, then you need to have an ability to know who's already responded to what. Sometimes people have people on different time zones doing customer support, so there's full coverage, and so you need to know, oh, that person responded yesterday. So you can see that all through conversation threads in Help Scout and Zendesk, where you're collaborating with a client's team. There's another little one called Streak. It's not one of the big players, but I teach it inside the Online Biz Skills as well because it's been so effective for us managing client work with not only customer support, well, not so much customer support, but things like outreach for our clients wanting to be an interviewee on a podcast or submitting a guest post to a big site, like if it's a health client like Mind Body Green, right? Big publishing sites. So being a guest post, being an interviewee, reaching out for clients that are wanting to connect with their affiliates and their joint venture partners or their collaborators, all that type of thing. So Streak allows you to, for a free extension in your Gmail inbox, add additional tracking functionality so you can track what you're doing with not so much customer support, but with these other things that I was chatting about just now. And so what you're doing there is you're referencing and adding to the business owner's frequently asked questions or help docs. So you're not just drawing on them, but you're also updating them and adding them as things change all the time in your client's business so that they become more valuable for the other team members that are needing to correspond with your client's audience. You're creating email templates to make that process more efficient. And okay, someone keeps asking about this, so I've got this little snippet to share about that on behalf of my client. And you're tracking, following up, and collaborating with other team members to find out, how things are getting resolved, what you should say in certain instances. One of the coolest things that you can do as a proactive service provider is, if you start off with customer support, going in and actually you will have access to their central system. You can actually go and spend a couple of hours of unbillable time just on your own proactivity, reading emails that were previously sent, just to build up your confidence, right? It's amazing to me how few people do that, because they think, oh, I couldn't charge for the client for that, and so then I'm not going to do it on unbillable time. But then what happens? You have a lack of confidence because you don't know anything that's being asked yet. You're just starting out fresh out of the gate. But reading those emails in the history of correspondence that other team members or the client have replied to, you get confidence. You start to get in a swing of things. The client or the experienced team member notices that you're really into it and that you're absolutely asking questions when you need clarification, but you also seem to kind of already know a little bit what's going on. And then guess what happens? They see how committed you are to their business, and they're looking for other things to hand off to you, whether that's more hours of customer support or more social media or the blog or what have you. Huge, right? And that applies across the board in all these skills that we're talking about, not just the customer support. Okay, so here's what you need. You need familiarity to navigate inside the online systems, and that's precisely what getting trained up is all about. You need an appreciation for good words and good images. And yes, I know that's not a grammatically correct sentence when that's referring to as such, but there was no other way to word it. I could say, quality words and quality images, but that's the way that it's locked into my head over these last 6 years. Good words, good images, everything else you can Google, right? Not everyone comes to the table going, okay, I know how to research for the image until the image is on brand for my client, or I know how to let my client know if a writer submitted a subpar post, and I can politely have that conversation with my client. Apart from, I won't get into too much depth there, but being the quality filter for your client, really, right? It's such an important part of them being able to connect with their audience. And at the outset, as a generalist and an implementer, you're not so much concerned with strategy as you are concerned with the quality of the content and the way that that's being formatted, curated, edited. Gary Vaynerchuk has a term, DJing content, like pulling out snippets and bits and pieces. I love that. I actually only heard him say it last week, DJing content, which I thought was super cool way of explaining it. That's what we do as implementers. We DJ the content. We pull out snippets. We overlay things together. We mix and match, so that's what we're focused on more so than actually the strategy overall. What systems, how frequent, what is it? Accurate spelling and accurate grammar, that's super important. If that's not natural to you, there's tools like Grammarly that you can make use of, or all the spell checker tools, in particular in Google Docs. Google Docs is going to sit behind a lot of this work. A lot of your drafts for all of this work are going to be in Google Docs. Landing page copy drafts, blog post drafts, even social media snippets. To care, okay? So this is huge. If I might have even had that in all caps, to really care about that business like it's your business partners or your friends or your spouse's business, right? And if you don't feel that intrinsic care, then it means you need to either dig in deeper and get more excited about it and do more research, because often enthusiasm comes from knowing more about something, or switch into a different topic area or industry and help clients in a different industry where you've got a natural affinity for that product or service or topic or type of content, so that that intrinsic care factor comes out more and more. It's so important for ramping up your rates when people really feel that you care, just like I was showing before. And to be comfortable asking questions and being resourceful. So yes, you want to come to the table with a base set of skills, but you also want to be able to get comfortable realizing that there's incredible value as an implementer, and that you can go and ask questions of a team member, or you can ask questions of people in groups, or you can even pay other service providers, other VAs that are working in that tool or that system for an hour of their time. I've done this so many times, learning new tools or what have you, and actually get their input on something, right? So you don't even need to pay a high-level consultant, but just someone that's been working in the system for a year longer than you. And that's quite affordable to do as well. But at the outset, you want to get that base level of skills. And that way, when you're starting to network in Facebook groups, get on the freelancing platforms, reach out to local business owners, reach out to business owners that you're following them in their, they're coming into your newsletter inbox, your email inbox. You're reaching out. There's more of a range of things that you can say yes to straight out of the gate as an implementer and a support person. Okay, so I hope that helps. I hope that really gives you the framework of where to start building this base of skills and where your inspiration may lie. Now, as I said, I started out with just blog management and customer support for a full work week. You can absolutely do that if you choose to, but getting that integrated set of 5, because all of those things transfer over. You're getting copy from a landing page to post on social media. You're getting copy from a blog post to post in an email newsletter. Because they all integrate, it means that you can be getting a larger volume of work from an established business owner from just one single client, and it reduces your unbillable time because you're doing more for one business, either directly to the business owner themselves or to a team of a collaborative team of service providers. Now let me see here. Okay, cool. So if any questions come to mind, pop them down below the video.